Hi, I'm Lucy and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite queer literature. But before I do that, I was kindly made aware by one of my friends that all my videos I filmed prior are mirrored, and I did not pick that up. Like, I've been through the process of editing and rewatching and re-editing these videos multiple times, and I did not get that all of that was the wrong way around. So I'm truly sorry for that. But now that I know of this inconvenience, I will make sure that this won't happen again. And I'll be very careful of mirroring my videos. So yeah, just wanted to get that out of the way. And now let's just get started with the video. So the first book I want to talk about is a non-fiction book. It's based on a true story, and it's called The 57 Bus by Dashka Slaughter. And it tells a story about Sasha and Richard. And Sasha is a non-binary, asexual, aromantic person, and Richard is an African-American person who hasn't really been confronted with different gender identities than male and female. So they ride the bus together every morning and after school. And Richard just cannot understand why, in his eyes, this guy likes to wear skirts. So one time he thinks it would be funny to light one of Sasha's skirts on fire, but that unfortunately led to Sasha being severely injured, as you can imagine. And Richard has to face the consequences, but then it's becoming also quite political, because Richard is a teenager. He is underaged when this book started and when he did that, but he is treated as an adult by the law in the United States, and I just think that's quite horrible because, you know, he wasn't an adult and he shouldn't be treated as such, but they do. And this entire book just tells the story of Richard, how he tries to get justice, and Sasha, how they try to recover from all of this. And it also makes you aware of all of the gender and sexual identities there are. There even is a chapter I have to show you that focuses on gender, sex, sexuality, romance, and tells you about some terms, which I find really, really cool because, you know, it really tells you about these identities and it makes you aware that they exist while reading, and you don't have to, you know, Google things, and you have this compact little list of gender identities and sexual identities right on your hand, and I think you should know about all of these identities. And then tells a story about Richard also becoming aware of these identities and realizing that what he did was wrong, and realizing that there are more than just two genders. So there's like this huge character development as well, and this growth. And all in all, I just really love this book. It's very well written. It's also rather short, so it's like a really good short read. And yeah, I really liked it, really enjoyed it, and I recommend that to everyone who maybe starts questioning their identity in terms of gender and sexuality, or people who, I don't know, want to learn more about it, or just start becoming an ally and want to, you know, learn about terms and things. Yeah. So I also recommend to give that to people who don't believe in other genders, just to make them aware of it. But I think that would be quite passive aggressive to do. Still, I do think that's a book that everyone should read because it's very interesting and very mind-opening and eye-opening as well. Next, I have, that's not really like a queer novel in itself, but I do want to include it because the author is gay, and it's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And there is also an uncensored version which does have homosexual content in it, and it was the original draft Oscar Wilde wanted to publish, but due to this homosexual content he had to rewrite these parts because the time it was written in was not ready for a cute male romance. Yeah, it still ends like the original, but I wanted to include it because firstly there is this homosexual idea behind it, and also because it's one of my absolute favorite classics of all time. I just think it's very, very great and very well written. And even in the actual published one, there are, you know, parts of love in it, and I did pick up like a queer vibe from the entire book while reading it, so I thought, you know, it's worth including. Then we have an actual queer novel again. It's The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharpie, I think she's pronounced. And this is a thriller and coming of age. So it's about this girl, Nora, whose mother forced her to take on different identities throughout her entire life because she wanted to get the money of men. And to do that, she used her daughter and formed this perfect child the man wanted to see. And eventually she managed to break out of this and lived in another town with her sister. And in there she meets a guy, they come together, they break up, and then she meets a girl, they come together and they stay together. And like the story talks about her girlfriend and her ex-boyfriend participating in a bank robbery. Like they're witnesses, they don't do the bank robbing, they're just in the bank when it happens, and they're held hostage by the bank robbers, and they try to find a way out of that. And this tells this like really great story about Nora finding herself, becoming like one person, meeting her girlfriend and all of that. It's very, very well written. It's in present and past written, so you also know about all of the times she had to be somebody else too. And I really liked it. It was very, very enjoyable. Can you say that about a thriller? It was well written, the page turner, really. Then we have, well, this is probably not a huge surprise to people who are on Book Talk or Bookstagram or BookTube or any other bookish platform. It's The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I had to include this book because it was so beautiful and I so loved it. It's still one of my absolute all-time favorites, and I can't stop thinking about it either. It's so beautiful, and it tells a story about Achilles and Patroclus from when they were very young to when they have to go to the Trojan War. So you kind of grow up with these characters, and you have this friendship that's becoming something more eventually, and then there are all of these issues where they can't really be together, and it's just so beautiful. And the writing in it is just, I just loved it so much. And yeah, it has this best friends and childhood friends to lovers trope. So if you like this, you like this one, and if you like Greek mythology, you'll love this one as well. It's, I can't tell you how much I love this book. Next is Loveless by Alice Oseman, and I barely see people actually talking about it. And it's also a coming of age novel and finding your identity. So it's basically about this girl, Georgia, who goes to university. And all of her life she wanted to have this romance you see in books and you see in films and TV shows, but she can't seem to find somebody to do that with. And she struggles with who she is and if something is wrong with her, and due to this she stumbles upon the terms asexual and aromantic and realizes that this is something she can identify with, and that it's also nothing bad to be asexual or aromantic. And I really loved it because I do think that there are way too little ace arrow representations in TV shows and films. And I just think that, again, if you struggle with finding yourself and finding your identity and you don't really know who you are and where you belong in this world, I do think you'll love this book because it really talks about it. And it also talks about the importance of friendship and how friendship is a form of love we like to ignore because we think that love is only for like this romantic idea, but it isn't. There are so many forms of love, and this book just kind of goes through all of them, and I really loved it. It's very beautiful and I highly recommend it. Then we have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertall, Albertalli, sorry. And this is again coming of age, and I think it is a romance. So I remember in my last video I actually said that I'm not a big fan of romances, I'm very picky, and that is true. However, when it comes to like queer literature, I'm very fast at picking it up. So like straight romance doesn't really interest me that much, but when it comes to queer, I'll buy it. So this is about Simon, who anonymously opened himself up as being gay on Tumblr. Then he gets a message from Blue, who also is gay and not out, and they start talking, and they actually start emailing the entire time, like back and forth, and they start having this deep friendship. And eventually Simon wants to know who Blue is and asks the question, but Blue just gives like subtle hints. And yeah, and then there are also like some issues, because eventually Simon is outed against his will, and this obviously leads to a lot of issues, and he obviously is upset about that, because this is something no one should take away from you. And then Blue stops messaging him, which like adds to all of this, but the end is so beautiful and so adorable and it's so sweet, and I really loved it, and I highly recommend it to everyone, really, because it's just a perfect read. It's very sweet and funny too, and I don't know, it just gives me like cozy vibes. Next we have Red, White and Royal Blue, which I also discovered through BookTok and BookTube. And this tells a story about the first son of the United States and the Prince of the UK. And in the beginning they don't really like each other, or you think. And then they kind of have to pretend to be friends, so it's like enemies to lover, fake friends trope, if that is a thing. But they like pretend to be friends, but for that they have to know things about each other, so they actually start having a friendship and eventually fall in love with each other, and it's so cute, and it's quite optimistic in their view of the world, but I don't mind that. I thought it was very sweet to see this ideal world just in fiction, because this is what fiction's for. You know, there's this one world where you can just forget how the real world is, and this book really does that, because it doesn't care that some of these things are very unrealistic and wouldn't happen in real life. It just happens, and it's so sweet, and I don't know, it's just a perfect read for in between, and if you really want to have this escapism, and it's so beautiful, and the love story is so great, and I really loved it. Then I did not have a physical copy of that, but I still wanted to include it because I absolutely loved it. There is a book, it's a classic, it's called Camilla, and I will again show you a picture somewhere on the screen, and it is like the original telling of vampire romance. And actually we have talked in class about it, and Dracula was inspired by Camilla, so it was also before Dracula. And it's basically about this vampire who goes after young daughters of like rich men, and she meets Laura and they start having this friendship and more. But then Camilla is exposed as the vampire she is, and the classic does not have a happy ending, but lucky for me and everyone who loves happy endings, there is a retelling called Camilla and Laura, and I just realized that I cannot remember the authors of either of them. But the retelling basically is the original story, just a bit deeper, dove in, and with a happy ending. And I still recommend this book, like both of them. If you like classics and sad endings, go for Camilla. If you like retellings of classics and happy endings, go for Camilla and Laura. I will also show you a picture on the screen where the author should also be mentioned. I just loved these books. They were so cute and wholesome, and I'm also not a huge fan of vampire stories, but this one I really liked. I thought it was very cool. I mean, as cool as it can be, but I really liked it, and I highly recommend that book as well. Last but not least is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Elias Sané. And I have talked about this book in my January wrap-up and in my book haul. And I have been gushing about this book in my January wrap-up because it is so beautiful. I loved it so much. And if you loved The Song of Achilles, you will love this book, because it just gave me Song of Achilles vibes. It has nothing to do with each other. It's not in the same time, it doesn't tell the same story, it's not even similar. This has nothing to do with Greek mythology, but reading it, I always thought, oh boy, this gives me so Song of Achilles vibes, and I can't really explain it, but it was just so beautiful. And I love the main characters, like Ari and Dante are just so sweet, and they're so cute together, and it has this friends and best friends to lovers trope in it, and I just loved it so much, and so sweet. And also, it's a very short read. Like, it doesn't look like it, but the chapters are quite short, so you actually go through that in no time. Like, I finished it in a day. I just couldn't take it out of my hand because it was so great. And yeah, highly recommend that. And there's a second part I will read as soon as I can, because I just cannot wait for the story to continue. So these are all of my queer literature book recommendations, and I am aware that some of them are quite popular, but I do believe that it's always good to have like multiple opinions on it, so you can make up your mind whether or not you actually want to read it. So if you were struggling with reading one of these, maybe this video helped you to decide. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can again leave book recommendations or books you liked, or books you're currently reading, put books you want to read down in the comments, and you can have discussions about these books. And yeah, you can also follow me on my social medias, which are linked in the description box, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye!